What's up, world? Second half Cav, live from the crib with it. But before I get to it, let me be the first to say that anything we may have allegedly done back in the days, nothing good came out of none of that shit. Also, the videos I make are not here to glorify or encourage any type of negativity. All my videos are for educational purposes only. Also, I would like to thank all my day one subscribers. I really do appreciate y'all. And to all my new subscribers, I definitely double salute y'all. Now let's get to the table and start stacking up this good shit. Today's video is called The Feds and the Root Lady. Now, a couple of videos back, I told y'all how a lot of new families was moving to shuttle line back in the early 80s. And I told y'all how how I got close to one of these families, and this particular family. And I told y'all how they had this big house warming and they had food and they had all type of DJs and everything. Well, kind of find out this particular DJ was, related to this family. The DJ was, my dog, it was his first cousin. So, and this particular cousin was from Robin Hood. Now, to all my subscribers that's not really familiar with the crib, Robin Hood is a neighborhood that means just that. This area was full of nothing but robbers, carjackers, pocketbook snatchers, smash and grabbers. They definitely was terrorizing all the tourists that was coming down to Miami back in those days. Robin Hood meant just that. And Robin Hood was loosely connected to Victory Home projects. Keep that in mind. So this particular cousin, he was from Robin Hood. And, throughout the years, every now and then, me and my dog will jump on a jitney and we'll, go up 7th Avenue and we'll go hang out in Robin Hood with this particular cousin. Or we'll hop on a jitney and we'll go through Victory Home. We did this shit like all the time. But when you jits, a lot of, shit really go over your head because, throughout the years, we started seeing this particular cousin less and less. So, y'all know going into 86, my dog, his family, they made that transition to New York, upstate New York. So, and right about this time, like I told y'all, his sisters and brothers, they had them found their groove. They got their new crib, their new spots and everything. But me and my dog, we still was wildcatting in the house. So maybe like a week or two before we really made that transition to 57th Street, we over there at the house in Shuttle Line and we just chilling. All of a sudden we hear some get down. We hear some, somebody beating. But the music is getting louder and louder and it's getting closer and closer. So as we chilling in the crib, all of a sudden, a truck pull up in front of the house. And it's a Bronco. But it ain't the regular Broncos. It's the new model. It's like a Bronco 2, an Eddie Bauer edition. It was black and beige with the KC lights on the top, sitting on some chunky Mickey Thompsons. But it's beating. I mean, it's quaking. It got the windows in the house shaking and everything. Now I got clear boys on the truck, but we still can't see who inside the truck. We can't see who driving. So when the nigga hop out, only thing I remember is the music just got real, real loud. But when the nigga hop out, we notice it's my dog cousin, the DJ. This nigga hop out the Bronco 2 looking like $1 million. Now, mind you, we didn't see Buddy in like a year. So he hop out, call us outside. I'm like, man, what's up? This nigga looking like money. This nigga got the khaki dicky on, and he got the black clocks on. Y'all already know I'm always talking about clocks because, you know, back in those days, either you was wearing Bally's or you was wearing clocks. You know, I'm a clock junkie. The nigga had on these clocks right here. Still fucking with the clocks, you know, since the 80s. But he had, you know, this particular clock on right here. It may not look like much to y'all, but back in the days, these here was the go-to shoes for everybody that was getting all type of cake. Either you had the black ones or you had the burgundy ones, but he had the black ones on with a khaki, with a beige dicky. The fit was matching the truck. Of course, the nigga had the big Cuban links on and the rings and the Rolex. And I remember when the last time we seen him, he only had like a 2-pack. You know, he only had 2 goals in the front. When this nigga pulled up, this nigga had a Berlin Wall. This nigga had like a 8-pack. This nigga looking like money. Well, I mean, y'all look inside, man. So we looking all in the truck. He had ungutted the whole truck out. And he had crushed all through that shit. Crushed from the dashboard to the ceiling, to the floor, to the seats. You know, back in the day, you know, that's what it was all about. You know, niggas definitely was tricking out cars. You know, back in the day, that was just some Miami shit. Very seldom we would fuck with the foreign cars like that. You know, we really only never seen that type of shit when we got to New York and, you know, seeing how niggas was like, you know, putting kits on cars and fucking up the foreigns. You know, the crib never did that. You know, only nigga who kind of really did that, but he kept it G was, you know, my nigga Stanker. One time for the OG Stanker from over town, Buddy had the cranberry Scarface Porsche. That shit was clean. That shit was clean, man. He had that cranberry paint on there, but the insides, he had them gutted out the inside and had crushed off through that shit, the burgundy and beige crush. We used to see the OG at American City on Saturday nights. I want to say one time for Lil Ouija. You know, that's the OG also. The Cuban, he owned American City back in the 80s. And on Saturday night, you see all the millionaire niggas used to come through and just post up at American City. And every Saturday, you know, we used to see the OG Stank up there with the cranberry Scarface Porsche. Either he was in that or he was in the big 600 green Benz with the curtains in there, crushed all out on the inside. So, you know, very seldom niggas really, you know, fuck with the foreigns. Only a few niggas was able to get away with that, but my nigga cousin, he had ungutted the whole Bronco out and had crushed all through that shit. In the back, he had nothing but speakers. I mean, that shit was shaking the whole block. So we asked him, damn, buddy, man, where you been at? We ain't seen you in a minute. So he go to telling us that he been up in Gainesville. Now, like I told y'all, my dog had like a big family. A lot of them was in Miami. A lot of them was up there in Gainesville. A lot of them was up there in Boston. And then a whole gang of them was up there in Rochester, New York. So he telling us, you know, he been in Gainesville, you know, getting to it with the rest of the family. So they had Gardenia projects on lock. So nigga, we up there eating. Now, mind you, this may be like a month or two before me and my dog started getting to the money. So everything he, you know, is not really registering in, everything he telling us, but to make a long story short, that's where he been getting to it. So he tell us, man, y'all get in the truck, man. So we go ahead and bend a few corners and, you know, we slide through Robin Hood and he hollering at all this, you know, all type of niggas over there in Robin Hood. We go through Victory Homes, you know, just making his rounds. So he eventually dropped us back off in Shuttle. peel us off a little bet, and he dick off. Okay, so y'all already know how, from 1989, that's when we made our transition to New York. Now, around about this time, we kind of knew that the cousin that was in Gainesville, he had to made his way to Boston and then to Rochester, because they was getting money in all these towns. So when we made the transition to Rochester, naturally we want to go ahead and flush him out. We want to get with him because, we know he on the same type of time we on. So as we go ahead and, make it do what it do over there on Conkey, initially we flush him out and we get with him. Like we heard, we find him on a street called Cleveland, which sat right off Hudson. $1 million street. On this particular street, it was 2 spots on this street, 2 breakdown spots, because like I always tell y'all, it wasn't nothing but breakdown in the town. There wasn't no crack in the town, yada, yada, yada. But on one side, on one end of the street, it was my dog cousin who was getting money down in Gainesville. It was him and his grandma on one side. And on the other side, it was the millionaire uncle who I'm always talking about. Now, my dog cousin and his grandma, her and the uncle, they was brothers and sisters, but they were just on opposite ends of the block getting to it. The uncle had a 20 spot down there booming. The grandma and the cousin, they had like a down spot. So we flush him out, we chop it up, we get with him, and he giving us the lay of the land. So, we sizing each other up, comparing notes. So he telling us, yeah, man, it's bread around here. He say, man, but it ain't 24 hours. I shut down like 1 or 2. And then, he said, all right, man, I come back out, the next day, because there wasn't a whole lot of Miami people in the town. So, back then, everybody in my dog family was hustling and getting some type of bread, but it had like a whole bunch of bases on the line. It wasn't set up how we do down in the crib. So naturally he asked us, he was like, man, whatever y'all got, man, y'all come over here, man, and, run that shit through the spot, man, to try to just pump it up. Cause around about this time he was making maybe like 5,000-6,000, getting nigga pennies. So it made sense to us, we got the whole thing going over on Conkey. We can go ahead and move all type of work over here. He giving us carte blanche to the spot. Okay. So now we do just that. But when we got to the house, on 4 corners of the house, it was candles on all 4 corners of the house. Candles with some feathers and some chopped up onions on all 4 corners of this property. So we asked him, man, what is that? So he was like, oh, man, no, don't worry about that, man. Just know we blessed. Okay. We instantly put 2 and 2 together. Okay. We already know what it is. The house blessed. It's some root shit going on at this particular house. Okay. I ain't fucked up with it. He was like, man, don't worry about it, nigga. We good over here. Just know we blessed. All right. But we noticed how the house was set up that, everybody sold, on the inside of the crib. It was so different from Miami. In Miami, everybody got money on the street, on the outside. But up there in Rochester, during this time, they sacked, in the inside of the house. And then, he had all type of bases working and all, and he had the little cousins working. This shit it wasn't running well. So when we got up in there, me and my dog switched that shit all the way around. So naturally, everybody's starting to know we 24 hours on the spot now. Okay, so now we taking that shit like from 5,000 to 6,000, and we running that shit up to like 12,000, 13,000 every day. Conkey already situated. We ain't got to worry about that. But now we focusing on this. So we got both things going on both sides of town. So now when the bases come through, they noticing the whole setup is different. When they come in the crib, me and my dog, we would take turns. Sometimes I answer the door and he'll be to the top of the staircase, or vice versa. So now when the bases come to the door and we let them in, when they come in and we close the door behind them, the first thing they see is me and my dog we strapped, and then whoever at the top of the staircase, they're holding an AK. They ain't really never seen no shit like that before, because, you know, the whole town was just really comfortable and relaxed. But when they seen that, it took some used to, you know, they had to get used to this shit a little bit, because they never seen no shit like that before. But naturally, they spread the word all through the neighborhood. You know, you go over there, don't go over there with that fuck shit. You know, you go get some clean sack, you know, just cop and go. Okay. So now, the shit running like a well-oiled machine. You know, the receipts are, you know, we pumping up the receipts. But we noticed inside the house, also on the bar, was a bowl with a candle with some feathers and some chopped up onions also. So, okay, well, the same shit like on outside. Okay, so we blessed on the outside and we blessed on the inside. So night after night, we going over there, you know, we getting to the paper. Till one night, as we chilling upstairs in the house, we hear somebody letting off. All we hear was like constantly. We know it's an AK, because, you know, a nigga know how AK sound. So we run to the window, because we was on the second floor. We looking out the balcony. It's my dog cousin. He and his grandma Cadillac, she had a burgundy Fleetwood Brougham. He whipping that bitch with the right hand. But some kind of way, he busting out the car with an AK with the left hand. He letting off at some New York niggas who has been short stopping, you know, for the last couple of months. You know, they had, you know, car blocks to do that, because before we got there, the spot wasn't running 24 hours. But now that we was there, you know, we had to let everybody know, you know, ain't no more short stopping. Take that shit blocks down. But, you know, these New York niggas, they really was kind of like hard heads. So, you know, we had to set an example like, you know, well, my dog had to set an example like, you know, Miami niggas do. You know, we go holler at y'all and respectfully, you know, let y'all know, man, you know, y'all can't do nothing on the street. You know, catch that shit somewhere else. If you don't want to abide by the rules, and we go hop out, and then we go, you know, naturally, you know, slap you with the pistol. You know, that's some Miami shit. And if you still want to act tough, and then we go, you know, let off and get to you. You know, that's just protocol. You know, Miami boys, we do that shit everywhere we go. You know, case in point, my dog cousin, he had to really set an example. Okay. So now it's business as usual. They got the whole thing going in Gainesville, Rochester, also in Boston, and Roxbury. The grandma, she had the whole thing going in the same projects that New Edition was from. I bullshit you not. We done been there plenty of times, never seen New Edition, you know what I'm saying? But we just always knew New Edition was from these particular projects. Right about the same time, it was some New York niggas in the town in Roxbury. And, you know, we came to find out it was some niggas from Queens or something like that. And then we later found out when a nigga got jammed or popped or something, it was a nigga named God. The same nigga who they based the movie off In Too Deep with LL Cool J. This nigga here was from New York City, he was from Queens or wherever he was from. He was getting money. They say he had the town sold up. He was getting money in these same projects that my dog grandma was in. But anyway, so they got the whole thing going in Boston. They got the whole thing going in Rochester. But me and my dog, we always wondered